Hi, in this video I'm going to change the auxiliary belt on the Renault Avantime, which is the F4RT 2-litre turbo engine, which is in the various Renaults of the time. So we've got Clio 182, 172, the Megane 225 and some of the other Meganes as well. It was in the Laguna 2-litre turbo. It's Spas, Vel Satis, possibly one or two others, but same engine. This one produces 165 horsepower or 163, something like that, so it should be pretty much the same for all the cars which produce that power, but I would think the basics of the engine are the same. The reason I'm changing it in this case is because it had a loud noise coming from it, and in a minute you'll see me trying to investigate that. So sorry it starts like that, but that's what I was doing. But it is something you really should change regularly. The only in the Avantime Club, the only known examples of cam belt failure is from the auxiliary belt failing and then getting tangled up in the cam belt. So and the auxiliary belt usually fails because either the auxiliary pulley, which I replaced in this, and that's what I found in my case, fails. It's a dual mass piece and it seizes up, snaps the belt, and no more engine if it gets tangled up. You might be lucky, but there's several cases where unfortunately it has required an engine rebuild. The other bit that fails is just the belt pulley, which just keeps it in place. So I replaced that as well. They come as a kit, I think, and they're not too expensive. But we recommend you change those every 5 years, I think. In this video, as you'll see, I actually end up replacing the auxiliary pulley with a solid unit, simply because that's what I accidentally ordered. The car's now been running for over a year on that. I'll be honest, I haven't done too many miles because of lockdown and stuff, but it's been fine, so hopefully it's fine. If you did want to swap, and that means it shouldn't fail, which is peace of mind. But the other pulley does, what do they call it? The idler pulley. The idler pulley does fail, so just do replace that still. Yeah, so hope it all makes sense. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments below. Okay, so I'm suspecting my clicking sound is coming from this pulley here, which is the main auxiliary belt pulley, the drive pulley, I can't remember what it's called, but they are dual mass, and basically they disintegrate. I knew about this, and I have a spare one in the garage, so I think I'll change that and see if it goes away. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to have to remove the belt, I think, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to draw a little diagram where the belt goes around which pulleys, so that if I don't finish the job today, which I really hope I do, get a car show tomorrow, but if I don't finish the job for whatever reason, I don't forget the route of the pulley. I can't really show it to you because there's just so much other stuff in the way.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the belt off, run the engine, see if the clicking is gone. I doubt it will be, so I do think it is. I'll then remove the pulley and then see if the clicking is gone. If it hasn't gone, it's not that, and then I will abandon the job because it's night time and there's better times to do this, like when it's light. But I want to go to the car show tomorrow, so I want to get it done. Okay, here's my fairly poor drawing, but it just needs to tell me what I need to know. So we've got it's the crankshaft pulley, what I was looking at. There's the tensioner, you can see that from the top. Power steering is right at the top. There's an idle pulley in the middle, that also fails, so I'm going to replace that. And the tensioner as well. And then it goes up to the alternator and goes down to the AC compressor down here. See if we can see that, how much of it we can see. So here, right here, we've got the power steering, that nice shiny one, that is the tensioner. That one in the middle on the left, just below the tensioner there, is the idle, and then the very small one directly below the power steering here is the alternator, and the one right at the bottom is the AC. You can't really see the drive shaft pulley, crankshaft pulley. It's the one right at the end, you can see it just poking out past the tensioner. So that's it. I'm not going to film this because it's just too tight and too difficult, and I want to get it done quickly. To loosen the tensioner bolt, I'm using a 16mm socket. Now I'm actually using a 3/8 inch socket, but my 3/8 inch socket, as you can see, comes out just a little way from the tensioner and is then blocked by the belt. And so using my 3/8 inch ratchet, I can't actually turn it enough. So I've got an adapter on there, and I'm using, it's actually a torque wrench, which is a 1/2 inch, because it's the only 1/2 inch ratchet I have, but it gives me the space, and in that gap there, from this aircon pipe here to this metal piece here, I get one click. So, just see that. So if I had any less space to turn, it just doesn't click the ratchet, and obviously the screw doesn't undo. So yeah, I would use a 1/2 inch socket if I had one and it came out far enough, because of course it may be the same problem. I have a longer 3/8 inch socket of 16mm, sort of spark plug type length, but that actually is too long, and so I can't get the whole thing between, I can't get it in. I think I can just about get it in, but then it's really tight up. But it doesn't actually have any advantage, because you don't really have any more swing than you do with this. I've had to switch to the 3/8, which isn't a problem, but because of the width of that, and obviously the bolt's coming out, and you can even see the bolt now, just poking out there. That's, if I'd have left it much longer, I wouldn't have been able to get the whole mechanism out, the socket and everything out, because it's just so restricted there. This isn't a lot easier, in fact it's probably harder. I can move it 2 or 3 ticks now, but it's such a confined space, and you can't take it, still can't take it past this belt, because then it's not quite on the thing enough, the bolt enough, and then it slides off and falls out. So yeah, it's not terribly easy. I was hoping that it might be loose enough to do with the fingers, but it's not. So I'll keep persisting, and hopefully the bolt's not too much longer. So after what felt like forever, the bolt finally came off, with the tensioner obviously, so I'm going to remove that and then undo the belt. Okay, Well, I've taken the belt off of it, as you can see. The tapping noise does seem to have gone, although it did vary a bit before. I still think it could be this, because obviously there's no tension on it at the moment. But I'm going to be replacing everything else. The idler pulley, which you can see just down there, the silver thing, that is feeling a little bit loose as well. I'm going to be replacing that anyway. I'm just going to rev the engine to see if it comes back. Sometimes it does. And then I'm going to turn it off, because obviously there's no alternator running. But I think that's positive, that it's definitely related to the belt. So hopefully, if I change the belt and do all the bits, we will have got rid of that sound and solved whatever the problem was, which I think is a crankshaft pulley. But even if it isn't, that'll all be done, and then we know it's good for another 5 years. So I'm going to have a go at getting this off. It doesn't feel loose or anything, but yeah, I think that's what it is. It's in 2 parts. I've got the new one here. I actually bought this absolutely ages ago, last year, even before last year I think. I'll do that. I bought the rest of the parts last year. I'd already got these. So let's have a look and make sure it matches up. Sorry it's dark, but you know, that looks right. I don't know if this is even a dual mass item. Doesn't appear to be. Which could be good, because then it might not fail. Might be a solid replacement. Because you can certainly see that that one's got 2 sort of elements to it. Anyway, we'll get it off and we'll have a look. I've got it's an 18mm socket, I think. Let's have a look, or 18mm nut rather. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have an 18mm in 1/2 inch, and the only 18mm I have is long, which is not really ideal. That's going to limit my access, because I'm going to be out all the way out here. But that's what we got. So this will be fun. Well, I suppose I've got a reasonable amount of space. I've got a breaker bar here, so hopefully I can get enough torque on it and get this off. I only have the long one because the short one has a wheel nut stuck in it, as I used it to remove a locking wheel nut, but that's another story. So I've got the cam shaft pulley off, and here it is. But there's a slight problem. There's a cam shaft pulley on the car, and this is the new one. The hole is somewhat different size, but it does fit in that hole, so I can put it on. So it does fit, but will it work? It's all I've got. I'm hoping it will. Now, I also noticed, now that I'll just say how I got that off. It's a trick that's on YouTube quite a lot. Basically, where's my bolt? There's my bolt. So you've got your bolt in there. You put the breaker bar on there, and then you crank the engine with the breaker bar supported against something, obviously it's not fully placed, but it was right up against their wedge, and I just ran the engine. I tried it a couple of times and then to film it, but it didn't work. It just popped off, but I think I didn't leave it on long enough, and as soon as I stopped cranking, it popped off. So anyway, that worked. The only thing is, I don't know whether there was a keyway or something, I can't remember what they're called, the little thing that locks this in place on there. Or in fact, where the rest of it is. That's not the whole pulley, is it? There was something behind it. You couldn't see through it. Oh, here's the rest of it. There we go. So that gives you some idea of how probably screwed it was. Oh, okay, it's kind of more reassuring now that hole is the same size as that one, but still there's a small hole, because this is a single piece and it really isn't supposed to be. Which is really annoying because I bought this over a year ago, so it's not returnable. I didn't pay the extra to auto dock. I just ordered it because I was ordering suspension parts. It was actually these, although I haven't replaced this one, it's just replaced one on the other side. See, that's when I ordered it. It was about, May last year. What to do? I assume that works in some kind of friction. It sits in there and spins around. Kind of annoying because I could have bought this single piece one for a lot less. 238. It's just got a part number on it. And it's got a 82 part number, and that means it's a Matra part. Well, it thinks it is anyway. Nothing that I can see that indicates it's. Alright, anyway, I'm going to put it back on it, put the new one on, because I haven't really got much choice. So yeah, I'll get on with that. I haven't got much battery left, so I'll get on with it. Before I put the belt back on, not the belt, the crankshaft pulley back on, I'm going to replace this idler pulley, because access is significantly better, as I don't have a pulley yet. That's a 13mm bolt, by the way. So I don't think I'm going to shift it with this on its own, but using this as well, we can increase the torque just as the manufacturer designed it, I'm sure. So just get that off. Okay, so I'm tightening the bolt up. I got the pulley on. That was really easy. Just 13mm. Again, it was really long, but it wasn't hard or anything. Anyway, so getting this on now. I was having trouble because it was turning. I tightened it up originally with this, just to do the first bit, and then I was turning the engine with my hand, and I was thinking, that's not right. I had it in gear, had it in first gear, because normally you lock the car in first gear, don't you, to stop it rolling away. To lock the engine, though, you want to put it in the highest gear. I hadn't thought of that. Anyways, I kept having to go back and Google how to lock the crankshaft, and everyone's coming up with ideas, because in America they've got automatics and you can't do this. So I thought, oh, that'll be okay. I've got one wheel on the ground still, so that's fine. So I had it in 6th. I was like, it's still turning. Why is it still turning? And then I noticed the brake discs and the drive shafts were turning. So obviously this is, it doesn't have a limited slip differential or anything like that. It always sends power to the wheel with the least resistance. So if one wheel locks up, the other wheel will just spin. So we have a breaker bar holding the brake down, and now it's not shifting, and I can use this torque wrench to torque it up to as much as I can. I don't actually know what the official figure is for this, and given I'm not actually using the correct pulley anyway, I think I just want to get it as tight as possible, and hope for the best. On one of the forums where the person put, I'll put it in the highest gear, the original question was, it said it was something like 140 pounds-feet, 125 to 140 pounds-feet, so I'm figuring that's a good, I've just put it up to the maximum on here, which is 150, so yeah, we'll just stick with that. Hopefully I can get the rest of this done. Where are we on? We're about a couple of hours in. It's going pretty well, really. So I've just put the belt on using my little guide here. So I firstly put it around here, just on the pulley, and then I pulled it up from the bottom, and then put it around the alternator, and then in order to get it all the way up here, I'm sorry, it's just completely out of focus. So I put it on the alternator, which you can see is that small one just underneath this power steering pump at the top here, and then I grabbed it between the crankshaft pulley and the idler pulley to pull it up to the top here. And then what we'll do next is pop in the tensioner, and before I tighten that up, I will obviously make sure everything is nice and in line. All the belt, I can't remember what they call them, but the ridges in the belt are in the grooves of the various pulleys, and I'll probably just rotate it a couple of times just to make sure it's okay. So let's try it out. I'll now be putting in the tensioner. Okay, I just want to show you this. It's taken me 2 hours to get this auxiliary belt on. I was using the 3/8 ratchet wrench thing, and attaching wherever it is, that extension bar, putting it down. I could force it under this lip of metal here. That's as far as I could take it, because this aircon pipe was here, and it just wasn't enough, and it was incredibly difficult. Oh, I'm so shattered. It's 12:30 now. Anyway, so I was like, there must be something I'm missing here. It can't be this difficult. People are just like, oh, just pull the tension, release the tensioner, and yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I saw another video where it mentioned a tool, so I started looking at tools, thinking, oh, maybe I'll go home in the morning. But anyway, I saw one which I don't even think it was for this, but it was a bent piece of metal, and I thought, now if it was bent, I could actually push it down a lot further, because the ratchet's fairly small. It can go a lot further. I just can't I'm not strong enough to push it down further, because it's just a huge amount of torque required. Oh, sorry, the torch has been well dodgy. I'll just show you what I've got here. So it's a breaker bar hoping you can see this. Anyway, so what I've got is on the end of the ratchet a breaker bar, which has a socket on it to cover the end of the socket, the wrench. Sorry, it's really late. I'm absolutely shattered. Now, by doing that, I can easily do the first bit of tension, and then when I get to a certain point, I'm not going to do it because it's still fairly difficult. I can turn so I get it a bit further down than that, but I turn the breaker bar so it's like that, and then I force it down, and I actually at one point was able to jam it just under the bonnet, so I could fiddle with it. Now the first time I did it, unfortunately the belt then wasn't on completely straight. At the bottom it was off on slight wonk, so I had to take it off and do it again, which was deeply frustrating, but at least I knew it was possible. I'd tried everything. I'd tried using the old belt in case it was slightly longer, although I couldn't work out which one was longer. I tried checking, and yeah, I was just getting really frustrated. But yeah, that's how I did it. So you want to get a breaker bar and then just force that down. It didn't require. It probably required a similar amount of effort in order to just move it to this piece here on that shorter bar, which was interesting because obviously I wasn't using, when I was forcing it even further, I wasn't using the torque. I wasn't using the torque. I thought it died there, and because the end of the bar is still there, I was just using downward force. Anyway, my battery's out. I'm going to put all this back together. I've got to just screw that tensioner fully in. I haven't gone in all the way yet, and then I can put the wheel back on. Well, I was going to check it.
One of the things I didn't mention at the beginning of this video, which you need to do before, if you're doing it at least on the Avantime, is to get access. After you've taken the wheel off, you need to remove the wheel arch liner. It's a fairly simple job. Just pops out, and there's a bolt behind the shock absorber. I'm not sure the size, but it's a fairly standard size, like a 10mm or 13mm. And you just need to undo that, and then it'll come off and just slide it around. I think it's just not on my car at the moment, but yeah, just take that off first. Other than that, access is pretty limited, unfortunately. But you do need to take that off if you want to do the pulley at the bottom. And if you've got an Avantime, when you take that off, you'll need to take the bottom tray off as well. The tray isn't fitted on my car at the moment either, because various reasons. But yeah, so take the tray off underneath, then take the wheel arch liner off. Was one more thing, if you are driving along and you hear a sort of rattling noise, the general advice from the Avantime Owners Club is to stop immediately and investigate it, because if it is that pulley and it does seize up, you could have, it could be a catastrophic failure. So hopefully that hasn't happened to you already, but that's why we recommend changing those items as a service every 5 years or so.